From ACC bars to PCC markers, you've spent Module 7 building fluency in ACC bars. Module 8 transitions you to PCC markers, the same architectural logic, but a higher bar and a different evaluation question. In this video, we map ACC bars to PCC markers side by side, see what's identical, what shifts, and where coaches most commonly stumble in the transition. You just spent 5 hours learning to evaluate coaching at ACC level. You can name 19 behavioral statements, work through a scoring algorithm, and write feedback calibrated to ACC. That skill is real, and it is about to serve as the foundation for something more complex. The competency framework hasn't changed. What you're listening for has. The most important thing to hold before we go further: you are not starting over. ACC bars gave you a precision language, evidence-based, behavioral, structured around the same 6 competencies. PCC markers use the same architectural logic. What changes is the scale and the central question. At ACC, you asked, is this behavior present? Does it meet the standard? At PCC, you ask, is this behavior demonstrated with depth, consistency, and integration into the coach's natural practice? Same foundation, higher bar. ACC bars has 19 behavioral statements. PCC markers has 37, nearly double. The count tells you where the additional granularity lives. The scoring systems are fundamentally different. At ACC, you assign a number, a 4-point scale, a scoring algorithm compared to 2.8. At PCC, there is no number and no algorithm. You assign a description of pattern, consistently demonstrated, generally demonstrated, or rarely demonstrated. That shift from arithmetic to language changes what you are responsible for as an evaluator. C1 ethics and C2 mindset operate identically at both levels. C1 is the constant in a system that otherwise changes considerably. Ethics is binary at every credentialing level, observed or not observed, no partial credit, no developmental spectrum. If C1 is not observed, the evaluation stops. The session cannot meet PCC standards regardless of what happens in C3 through C8. That gating function is identical to how it worked at ACC. C1 should take very little of your evaluation time. Document it, then move to where the real analytical work lives. C2 presents the same challenge at PCC that it did at ACC. Coaching mindset cannot be directly observed in a session recording. What you can do is infer it from the pattern of observable behaviors. The slide lists 11 proxy markers, the same 11 at both ACC and PCC. They draw from your trust and safety, presence, listening, and evoking awareness competencies. You don't rate C2 directly. You watch those 11 markers, see what pattern they form, and infer the coach's underlying mindset from the pattern. The mindset itself doesn't change by credential level. What changes is the depth and consistency of how it shows up behaviorally. 37 markers. The distribution is deliberately uneven. C3 through C5, the foundation competencies, have 3 to 5 markers each. C6 through C8 have 7, 8, and 9 respectively. That heavier weighting reflects where the ACC to PCC developmental gap is widest. Most coaches solid at ACC level need the most growth in how deeply they listen, how genuinely they evoke awareness, and how substantively they partner around growth. ACC establishes the floor. 19 statements describing baseline behavioral competence. PCC traces the shape of the ceiling. The additional markers are deeper articulations of the same competencies, not new categories. C6 is the most instructive example of what depth of integration actually means. At ACC, the question was, does the coach paraphrase, summarize, and reflect? At PCC, the question is, does the coach integrate what they hear into the forward movement of the conversation? Consider what that looks like in a session. The client uses a specific word at minute 4. At minute 12, the coach's question references that exact word, not to summarize, but to open a new direction. The earlier hearing is woven into what happens next. The behavior class is the same. The depth of integration is the standard. The shift from numerical to qualitative evaluation is one of the most significant practical changes in Module 8. At ACC, the algorithm gave you certainty. Rate each statement, calculate the average, compare to 2.8. Your judgment was constrained by arithmetic. At PCC, there is no arithmetic. When you say a marker is consistently demonstrated, you are making a professional judgment about a pattern across an entire session. That judgment must be supported by specific evidence, timestamps, quotes, what you actually heard. The qualitative language requires you to describe a through line, not rate a single occurrence. More demanding, not less rigorous. The most common mistake coaches make transitioning to PCC evaluation, rating a marker consistently demonstrated because of one strong moment. One impressive C6 exchange does not make a through line. Consistently demonstrated means the behavior appears across the session as a recurring feature of how the coach works. This shapes how you give feedback as a mentor coach. Your feedback needs to name the pattern, not celebrate the peak. At minute 4, you did something excellent is observation. Across this session, your listening consistently integrated the client's specific language into your next question. At minute 4, at minute 12, again at minute 22. That is pattern recognition. The peak is evidence. The pattern is the evaluation. Module 7 built your ACC bars fluency. Precision language, numerical scoring, behavioral evidence. Module 8 extends that into PCC markers. 37 markers, qualitative language, pattern level evaluation. Before you can apply that framework, you need to know what each of the 37 markers actually describes in practice. That is what the next video covers. All 37 markers, competency by competency. Some will look familiar from Module 7. Others describe behaviors you haven't been specifically asked to evaluate before. Let's go.